Okay. Welcome to McNally Jackson. I'm Michelle, the events coordinator. Just wanted to let you know that today only this book is 20% off, Unlikely Brothers by John Prendergast and Michael Mattocks. So we have copies. Surprise! So we have them for sale upstairs at the register, and you can get the book signed right after the event over the table. The authors will be signing. I encourage you to buy the book. So today we're incredibly honored to have John Prendergast and Michael Mattocks in conversation with Ann Curry. John Prendergast is a human rights activist and author. He is co-founder of the Enough Project, an initiative to end genocide and crimes against humanity. Working for the Clinton administration, he was directly involved in a number of peace processes in Africa. He helped create the Satellite Sentinel Project with George Clooney, write 2 books with Don Cheadle, and developed documentary films on Congo with Ryan Gosling. He has appeared in 4 episodes of 60 Minutes and was featured in a New York Times profile titled Attention Grabber for Sudan's Cause. He has been a youth counselor, a basketball coach, and a big brother for over 25 years. Michael Mattocks lived in homeless shelters as a child and began dealing drugs as a teenager. He is now a husband and father of 5 boys, working 2 jobs at once in order to support his family. He helps coach his sons on their football teams. And Ann Curry, as many of you know, is the co-anchor of NBC News' Today, America's #1 morning news program, and the anchor of Dateline NBC, the network's award-winning news magazine. She was the news anchor for Today from March 1997 until June 2011. In May 2005, she was named co-anchor of Dateline NBC. She also regularly substitute anchors on NBC Nightly News with Brian Williams. Curry has distinguished herself in global humanitarian reporting, frequently traveling to remote areas of the world for underreported stories. Ann and John have been interacting on African issues, particularly Darfur, since 2004. The 2 traveled together with George Clooney to southern Sudan in October 2010. Let's all welcome them.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be among you, and a special pleasure to be here with John and Michael, and to talk about this book, Unlikely Brothers. So we're glad for you to be here, and we want to tell you that this is being broadcast, so no 4-letter words. Although there are some in this book, John, this is a very honest book that you and Michael have written. In fact, it is so honest that I wondered what your motivation was until, as I got into it, I understood that it's an attempt to do good for you and attempt to do good for others. First, tell us about those initial chapters that you had to write about your own background and what brought you to Michael.
At first I thought, oh, this is going to be great. It'll be really easy because I'll just tell the story of this really good guy who helped this kid, and hopefully made his life better. But, as soon as took out the microscope and started looking at motivations, at why I did what I did, as with probably anyone, there are hugely complex reasons. And coming out of a somewhat abusive household upbringing, and having to sort of peel the onion layer by layer, very painfully, revealing to myself and then ultimately getting it on paper, the reasons why. I mean, it's very different than sort of the noble knight riding into the difficult situation. It was definitely greatly out of self-interest, out of trying to fill holes in my own life and trying to figure out my own path forward.
How old were you?
When I first met Michael, I was 20.
And you had been in a family where you felt no deep closeness with your father.
The opposite. It was actually we were very estranged. It was very explosive upbringing, and for about 25, 30 years, I didn't look at him. So it was a complete, just turned off the switch and lights went out, and I just checked out of the relationship.
On top of that, in your life, in high school, in those early years, you struggled against. You just felt ugly. You felt. You had acne like a lot of us did. You felt not connected to your father, and this was devastating to you.
Yeah, I think, it's not really terribly unusual. I think a lot of young kids growing up feel a lot of alienation for many different reasons. I had my set of reasons, and a very sensitive kid, so it just acutely affected me. And the effect it had was a real anger against unfairness. So early on, I began to sort of go to soup kitchens and homeless shelters and start volunteering at these places, listening to people's stories, just getting deeper and deeper into sort of the underside of our country and understanding what poverty, homelessness, and other social afflictions were all about.
Mm-hmm.
Just sort of somehow connecting to those things in my own torment.
Meantime, for you, Michael, how old were you when you met John?
I was 7.
Okay, so what was your life like when you met John?
Well, when we first met John, we was just living in a homeless shelter.
You were in a homeless shelter with how many brothers and sisters?
At that time, I think I had 2 brothers and 1 sister at that time. No, actually, 3 brothers and 1 sister at that time.
Mm-hmm.
You kept having more.
Yes, and then yes, my mom kept having more.
And how would you describe your emotions? John just talked about his emotions, his struggles with his father, the alienation. What were your emotions as you can remember at age 7 in a homeless shelter?
Well, I knew it was wrong. I knew we was, shelter to shelter. It was bad, carrying around the bags. We were small, real small, carrying around bags, and, it was sad, It hurt it. Like when I wrote the book, live that memory again, I broke down a lot, just like thinking about the stuff we went through when we was that small.
You talk about in the book how you really remember the garbage bags.
Yes, I did.
Because that's how you carried around your world, your whole life.
Yes, we carried around the home with the bags on the bus. Wherever we went at, that's where we carried around with our bags. No book bags, it was trash bags,
So how was it that you two would meet? Because it is unlikely.
Yes.
How did you meet John?
A friend of mine, I continued sort of our nomadic existence. My dad was a frozen food salesman, so we moved around a lot when I was a kid. And I went to 5 different colleges. I just kept, moving, Rolling Stone. And the first place I went was Georgetown. And a buddy of mine I met there was overseeing when I dropped out of Georgetown. He stayed there, but he was overseeing a homeless shelter. He was basically the worker there. So I went to visit him one day, and down in D.C., 13 blocks from the White House. And there's a shelter there, and I went up there and was just hanging around with him in the afternoon. It was the midst of the Reagan Revolution, so we're talking about, all the intellectual sides of poverty. That's why these cuts were doing and blah, 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 ideological differences. And then, bam, Michael and his brother James, 1 year younger than Michael, Michael was 7, James was 6, come rolling into the room, just playing and joking and laughing. So I jumped right in there with him and horsing around. And eventually we go to the library and we repeat it. We keep kind of hanging around, doing a lot of stuff together, and eventually we just sort of become brothers in a way, informally, that ended up cementing itself as a big brother, little brother relationship.
Big age difference. People wondered why your mother let you hang out with this guy.
Yes, she did. She really did. I had a lot of my aunts, had a problem with it because, they always used to say, you need to stop letting that white man come around, pick them boys up. You don't know what he doing to them. And, my mom was like, they okay. She knew we was in good hands with John. She really did. And if something was wrong, we would have told her. But it wasn't. It was the fun, he made it, even though the library, first time we ever went to the library, we looking at the book like, it's boring, you know what I'm saying? But we started, like, he told us if we don't know something, let him know, and that's what we did. And he started doing more and more with us, and it was fun, a stranger, we meet this strange guy, and I mean, for real, we met this strange guy.
You have no idea.
A lot better for us. I mean, it was crazy.
He asked you when he in those early years if you knew how to read.
Yes. And I really didn't. We really didn't know how to read. Because, from us bouncing from shelter to shelter, some nights we wouldn't get to shelter at 12, 1 o'clock at night, still got to get up and go to school. So, you think about it. And when we get out from school, we never know where we're gonna be at. You know, and it was crazy because